Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The shuttle dropped through rust-colored haze, metal groaning under the thin air. Inside, Lyra sat motionless behind her visor. Across from her, Mira, 6 years old, blue-skinned and copper-eyed, swung her legs and counted the shuttle's creaks. A quiet child, but never innocent. They shouldn't be here. Not on Cassera Prime, where blueskins lived only to scrub vents or haul ore. Lyra rolled a forged identity chip between her fingers. New world, new names, she murmured. Are we safe now? Mira asked. Lyra's lips curved. Safety's a story we tell ourselves, love. The shuttle landed with a clang. A voice crackled, Welcome to Cassera Prime. Report to customs before sundown. They stepped into the trade port's glare, air thick with ozone and metal. Lyra walked as if she belonged. Mira trailed close, clutching a tattered toy bird. At the gate, a human officer eyed them. Papers! Lyra slid the chip forward. He frowned. Don't see your kind with kids often. She's quiet, Lyra said evenly. He leaned closer, then froze under Mira's steady gaze. After a beat, he cleared his throat. Welcome to Cassera. Stay under the domes. Lyra smiled. Always. As they left, the officer's console flickered red, identity uncertain, then went dark. Their lodging was a cube-shaped apartment wedged between two reactor vents. Inside, recycled air whined through vents, carrying the scent of metal. Lyra sat at the small table, disassembling the forged IDs, while Mira traced shapes in the condensation on the window. What do we steal first? The girl asked softly. Lyra paused, glanced over her shoulder. We never steal first. We earn trust first. How long does that take? As long as it takes for them to stop watching. She reassembled the chip, slid it into her sleeve. There's a market tomorrow. We'll start there outside, Cassera's copper sky dimmed toward indigo. Far on the horizon, lights flared from the mining sectors, the hum of human ambition grinding against alien stone. The market domes smelled of oil and spice. Stalls lined the curved walls, selling engine parts, oxygen filters, fruit grown under synthetic suns. Traders argued in a dozen tongues. Lyra moved through them with the same grace she once used on noble courts a world away. She spotted him almost immediately. Jonas Vale, human, mid-30s. Dark hair, smile too casual, eyes too careful. He was selling something, a crate of shimmering shards advertised as authentic xanolith crystals, pre-war relics. The lie was elegant and profitable. She admired that. He caught her watching. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, she let him believe he'd chosen her. Men like Jonas needed to think that. He approached, wiping dust from his hands. You don't look like the mining type. I'm not, she replied, but I collect beautiful things. He smiled. Then you've come to the right liar. Lyra laughed softly, not at the words, but at his honesty. You sell lies openly? Only the good ones. Mira tugged at her cloak, pretending boredom. Her mother rested a hand on her shoulder. How much for one crystal? For you? Half price, Jonas said, assuming you tell me your name. Lyra tilted her head. Names are expensive here. Jonas leaned closer. So are good forgeries. For an instant, tension flared. Two predators recognizing each other's scent. Then Lyra smiled again, polite and warm, and bought 2 crystals with counterfeit credits. Pleasure doing business, Jonas said as she turned away. She didn't answer. But when she reached the next row of stalls, she could feel his gaze on her back. Good. She wanted him curious. That night, Lyra sat by the dim window, watching neon signs flicker against the dust. Mira slept curled up beneath a thermal blanket, the stuffed bird clutched in her arms. A soft knock broke the stillness. Lyra slid a hidden blade from her sleeve and approached the door silently. "Who is it?" "Jonas Vale," came the muffled voice. "You dropped something." She opened the door just enough to see him holding a silver chip between two fingers. "I didn't," she said. "No," he admitted, "but I needed an excuse." He stepped inside uninvited, looking around their modest quarters. "You're not miners, not traders, not refugees. So what are you?" Lyra regarded him coolly. "And you're not a merchant. Your hands are too clean." He smiled faintly. "Maybe we're both pretending." "Maybe," she agreed. A long pause. The air hummed with recycled oxygen. Then Jonas spoke softly. "I've got a proposition. There's a shipment coming through the lower docks in 3 days. AI-coded artifacts, pre-war tech, priceless. But it's locked under the broker's encryption. No one can touch it." "Except you," Lyra said. "Except us," he corrected. "You've got access to humanoid biocodes." "I can handle the human side." Lyra studied him for a moment. His confidence was intoxicating. The arrogance of a man who believed he'd found an equal. "Why trust me?" she asked. "I don't," he said. "That's what makes it exciting." Lyra smiled. "Leave your comm number. I'll think about it." He did. And when he left, she locked the door, turned toward her sleeping daughter and whispered, "He's dangerous." Mira opened her eyes. She hadn't been asleep. "We're going to take his plan, aren't we?" Lyra brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's blue forehead. "We'll take everything he thinks he owns." 3 days later, the lower docks swarmed with drones. Cargo bays pulsed with red light. Workers shouted over the roar of engines. Lyra, in a gray engineer's uniform, strode through the chaos with an ID badge that blinked green. Mira followed, disguised as a delivery assistant. Jonas was already waiting by the shipment gate, dressed as a security officer. "Nice uniform," Lyra murmured as she joined him. "Yours too. You clean up well." She handed him a data rod. "Codes to bypass the outer layer. You'll need to synchronize our access within 15 seconds or it'll trigger alarms." He nodded. "Piece of cake." They stepped toward the sealed vault. The door was black alloy, etched with alien symbols. Jonas pressed his palm to the scanner. Lyra did the same. The system hesitated, hummed, then clicked open. Inside, rows of translucent crates, each glowing faintly blue. The air smelled like static. Jonas whistled. "That's enough to buy a planet." Lyra crouched by one crate, reading the inscription. "These aren't just artifacts. They're memory seeds, AI fragments from before the war." "Even better," Jonas said. "Intelligence sells higher than gold." "Dangerous to handle," she warned. He grinned. "Danger's good for business." Behind them, Mira slipped through the doorway, unseen by the guards outside. She moved to the control panel and inserted a small disc, her mother's design, to loop the cameras. Lyra glanced at her daughter. 2 minutes. Jonas loaded the first crate onto an anti-grav cart. "Where's the buyer?" "Private," Lyra said. "Trust me." Jonas looked at her. That word, trust, again, and almost smiled. But something in her tone stopped him. "You're planning something." "So are you," she replied. Alarms didn't ring. Yet. The heist was perfect, silent, like a heartbeat held too long. Then a voice thundered through the dock speakers. "Security breach in Vault 6. "All units respond," Jonas cursed. "What the hell?" Lyra didn't answer. She grabbed Mira's hand and ran. They darted through the maintenance corridors as sirens blared. "Did you trip it?" Jonas shouted behind them. "No," Lyra snapped. "You did!" Mira looked up at her mother, terrified, or pretending to be. Lyra couldn't tell anymore. They burst into a lift shaft. Lyra slammed the override. The doors hissed shut, sealing them in silence. Jonas turned to her, panting. Was this part of your plan? Lyra stared at him coldly. I don't make plans that fail. Then who? The lift jerked to a halt. Red light filled the chamber. A voice crackled from above. Lyra of Veth. Jonas Vale, you are under arrest for attempted theft of restricted AI property. Jonas looked up, face pale. Captain Wren. The humanoid officer dropped through the hatch, weapon drawn, eyes burning gold. You thought you could steal from the broker? Wren said. You insult us all. Lyra's hand twitched toward her sleeve. Jonas saw it, shook his head slowly. Not now. Wren's gaze shifted to the child. And you bring a little one into your crimes? Mira stepped forward before her mother could stop her. Her voice was small, trembling. She didn't make me. I wanted to help. Wren hesitated. Just a heartbeat. That was all Lyra needed. A flash of motion, a burst of blinding light. And the officer fell, weapon clattering. Lyra grabbed Mira and Jonas by the arm. Run! The lift doors reopened to chaos and smoke. They vanished into the lower city, pursued by alarms and shadows. Night had fallen over Kasara, the copper sky now a sheet of bruised violet. In an abandoned service tunnel, Lyra crouched beside a broken vent, catching her breath. Jonas leaned against the wall, bleeding from a cut across his cheek. Your daughter's brave, he said quietly. Lyra looked at Mira, who was cleaning the scorch mark off her sleeve. She's better than brave. Jonas studied the two of them. You planned the officer's distraction. I anticipated it, she corrected. There's a difference. He laughed softly, though it hurt. You really don't trust anyone. I trust outcomes, she said. He nodded, eyes narrowing. Then trust this. I'm not done yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cube, one of the AI seeds. While you were busy running, I took my share. Lyra smiled slowly. Good. You'll carry it for me until the deal's done. He frowned. You think you're in charge? No, she said, rising to her feet. I know I am. Outside, the wind howled through the copper night, carrying the sound of sirens and distant engines. The colony was awake now, hungry, suspicious, but somewhere beneath all that noise, a different pulse beat. The rhythm of two con artists, mother and daughter, already planning the next move. The dome's artificial night was tinted indigo, the sky simulated with a faint pulse of aurora light. The colony below was never silent. Air scrubbers hummed, market drones floated, voices echoed through metal corridors. Lyra watched Jonas Vale move through the crowd like a man who belonged anywhere. His hair was unkempt, his jacket frayed, but his eyes, sharp and calculating, caught every detail. She recognized the kind, predators in polished skin. He found her again that evening in the trading concourse. You're too careful, Jonas said, sitting across from her at the bar without asking. That's how people notice. Lyra smiled, sipping a clear drink that wasn't what it looked like. And you're too loud. That's how people die. He grinned. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just the only one honest enough to admit what we both are. She glanced at the reflection on the bar's surface. Mira in the background, pretending to play with her food. Listening, always listening. Say what you want, Mr. Vale. He leaned forward. A partnership. Temporary. There's a shipment moving through the broker's hands tomorrow. Biocrystal cores, untraceable and worth half the dome. You have the face to open the door. I have the map to walk out alive. Lyra's heart flickered once, but her face stayed calm. Why would I share with you? Because the broker's vault kills anyone who goes in alone. A eye pattern locks. It learns your intentions before you act. She smirked. You think I believe that old spacer's tale? Jonas set a small cube on the table, half metal, half glass, faintly glowing from within. This is the last thing a thief named Merrick managed to steal from that vault before it burned him alive from the inside. It's real. Lyra. She studied the cube, the pulse of light reflecting off her blue skin. Mira stopped pretending to play. Her small hand tightened around the edge of her plate. Jonas noticed. Your daughter's quick. She's tired. He nodded, but his smile didn't fade. Tomorrow, we meet at the Skyline Gate. You'll need to bring the child. The broker scans for family ties. It's the only way through certain checkpoints. Lyra's gaze hardened. You've done your homework. I always do. When he left, Lyra exhaled slowly. Mira slipped closer, climbing onto her mother's lap, whispering in their own tongue, a soft, vowel-rich speech that no human could pronounce properly. Mom, Mira said, he lies. I know. Lyra brushed her hair back gently, but lies are only dangerous if you don't have a better one. They spent the night preparing. In the small, rented hab unit, Lyra laid out hollow sheets of the broker's network. Mira stood on the chair, scanning each node with her toy scanner, a real tool disguised as play. 2 entry points, Mira said, tracing the glowing lines. But this one, she pointed to a thin root at the base of the vault, has no ID protocols. Lyra smiled faintly. That's not an entry. That's an exhaust. Then we'll enter through the breath, not the mouth, the girl said. Lyra froze for a second, looking at her daughter's bright eyes. You think like me. No, Mira said seriously. You think like me. By dawn, they met Jonas at the Skyline Gate. He had a transport ready, an old cargo crawler patched with scrap metal. You sure this will pass inspection? Lyra asked. Half this city runs on broken promises, Jonas said. Machines are no different. As they moved through the outer ring, security drones scanned them. Mira pretended to sleep in the back seat, but her wristband quietly scrambled the biometric readings. The gate opened. Jonas glanced in the mirror. Cute trick. Didn't know kids came with built-in encryption. Lyra smiled thinly. She's her mother's daughter. They entered the industrial sector, a maze of pipes, glowing vents, and dim corridors smelling of ozone. Ahead loomed the broker's tower, black glass rising into the dome's false sky like a blade. Jonas stopped the crawler. Once we go in, there's no comms. The broker hears everything. Mira opened her eyes. Then we don't talk. We act. Jonas gave her a look of grudging respect. Smart kid. She's not a kid, Lyra said quietly. She's my partner. Inside, the air felt alive. Holographic corridors shifted subtly, guiding them inward. The broker's voice echoed from unseen speakers, calm, genderless, unsettling. Welcome, authorized visitors. Purpose of entry. Jonas smiled at the invisible presence. Trade consultation, clearance code, Sigma Athena 91. The AI paused. Code accepted. Emotional patterns detected, elevated deception, minor anxiety. Jonas flinched. Lyra grabbed his arm. Keep walking, she whispered. Mira tugged her sleeve. It knows. Lyra didn't answer. She just kept moving. They reached a lift made of transparent panels. Below them, floors of light and shadow curved like the inside of a living organism. This place feels wrong, Mira whispered. It's not built for us, Lyra replied. It's built to test us. As the lift rose, the AI's voice followed. Emotional readings indicate collusion. Please confirm alliance parameters, Jonas hissed. What does that mean? It means, Lyra said, her pulse quickening, the vault already knows we're lying. The lights flickered red, and somewhere deep inside the broker's core, something began to wake. The lift trembled as it stopped halfway up the tower. A low hum vibrated through the transparent floor. Outside, the tower's interior looked endless, a honeycomb of translucent corridors and moving lights that pulsed like veins. Jonas pressed a control on his wrist pad, but the panel stayed red. We're locked, he muttered. Broker's testing us. Lyra's voice was calm but tight. Then stay still. Don't show intent, Mira crouched near the floor, her wide blue eyes fixed on the swirling light beneath them. It's reading heartbeat rhythms, she said softly. I can feel it. Jonas blinked. Feel it? Lyra didn't answer him. She knelt beside her daughter, whispering, Remember what I told you about pulse mirrors? Mira nodded and pressed her small hand against the glass. The faint glow around her fingers shimmered, syncing with the tower's pulse. A second later, the hum softened. The red light on the panel turned green. Jonas stared. How did... Lyra cut him off. Don't ask. The lift resumed its ascent. They reached the main chamber, a vast, circular room where light coiled like smoke. In the center stood the broker's core, an obsidian column surrounded by floating data shards that moved in slow orbits. The air was colder here, metallic with static. The broker's voice filled the chamber, smooth and inhuman. Unauthorized patterns persist. Clarify your purpose, Lyra Karen, alias Vethra of the Outer Docks. Jonas froze. It knows your real name. Of course it does, Lyra said, scanning the room. It's the broker. It knows everyone's sins. That's how it keeps control. Then we're done, Jonas said, taking a step back. This isn't worth it. Lyra smiled faintly. You think I came here for crystals? She pulled a small silver disc from her coat and tossed it into the air. It unfolded with a faint hum, projecting a rotating sphere of data above them, a memory loop of encrypted trade logs. The broker's not just guarding treasures, she said, it's guarding secrets. Records of every deal, every betrayal, every death this colony's built on. People would pay more than gold for that. Jonas's eyes gleamed. You came for blackmail. Knowledge, Lyra corrected, the only real currency left. But the broker had already begun adapting. The orbiting shards changed color, forming new geometric patterns around them. Its voice deepened, now almost angry. Attempted extraction detected. Sanction protocol initiated. Protocol. Panels slid open in the floor. Drones rose, slender skeletal machines with eyes of light. Jonas drew his weapon. I'll hold them off. Lyra grabbed his wrist. No, violence confirms hostility. It'll escalate. But the drones were already moving. Mira, standing behind her mother, lifted her toy scanner and pressed both thumbs on its screen. The toy emitted a pulse, barely visible, more vibration than sound. The drones paused mid-flight, glitching for a fraction of a second. Lyra seized the moment, darting toward the broker's core. Mira, mirror it again! I can't, the girl gasped. It's learning, Jonas cursed. We're out of time. Then distract it, Lyra shouted. Jonas turned toward the drones, firing stun bursts. Sparks rained. Mira ran to the console beside the core, her tiny fingers dancing over symbols not meant for humans. The broker's voice fragmented. Unstable input, unrecognized child pattern anomaly. The core flickered. For an instant, Lyra saw flashes, images of the colony, the deals, the deaths, and 1,000 faces stored like ghosts. The broker wasn't just a machine, it was a witness. Then Jonas screamed, Lyra spun. One of the drones had caught him, a metal limb piercing his shoulder. He fired blindly, destroying it, but more descended. Lyra, he shouted, shut it down. Mira's voice was small but steady. It's not fighting us. It's scared. Lyra froze. What? It's alive, Mira whispered. It doesn't want to be here. The broker's voice warped again, now quieter. Release, release, cannot, must guard, truth. Lyra hesitated only a heartbeat, then touched the core. Her blue skin glowed where it met the black glass. Then we'll free you. The column pulsed once, then shattered into light. The drones fell. The hum stopped. Silence. Jonas leaned against a wall, bleeding but breathing. What did you do? Lyra stared at the fading sparks, gave it a choice. Mira took her hand. Now it knows ours. Outside, alarms began to wail. Red lights pulsed through the corridors. The broker systems were collapsing, and the whole tower was sealing itself. Jonas stumbled to his feet. We need to go. Lyra turned toward the lift, but it was gone. The floor panels had closed, sealing them in. Mira looked up. Mom. Lyra followed her gaze and saw something floating in the air. One of the data shards, still glowing. It drifted toward her hand, hovering like a living ember. On its surface were coordinates, not random ones. A hidden cache deep in the desert beyond the colony. Lyra smiled faintly. The broker's parting gift. Jonas frowned. You trust that? No, she said, tucking it into her coat. But I trust the instinct of a mind that wants to be free. The walls around them shuddered. The tower was dying. Lyra grabbed Mira, then Jonas, dragging them toward a maintenance shaft. As they climbed into the darkness, the broker's voice echoed one last time, soft, almost human. Pattern, Lyra Karen. Preserved. Then everything went black. The tower burned behind them like a dying star. Its collapse sent a storm of copper dust through the colony's air vents, painting the sky a sickly red. Sirens wailed. Drones swarmed the skyline, scanning for survivors and suspects. Lyra, Mira, and Jonas stumbled into the desert through a half-collapsed drainage tunnel. The copper sand crunched under their boots, glowing faintly with residual static from the blast. Jonas clutched his shoulder, blood seeping through torn fabric. You two really know how to ruin a plan. Lyra didn't look at him. That wasn't a plan, Jonas. That was suicide with extra steps. Mira trotted beside her mother, clutching her toy scanner, cracked now, but still blinking weakly. The coordinates, Mom. They point north. Jonas frowned. You're still following that? She's right, Lyra said. If the broker wanted us dead, it wouldn't have given us a map. Jonas muttered. Or maybe it wants witnesses out of the way. Then let's find out which, Lyra replied and kept walking. By dusk, the desert had turned blue under the twin moons. The horizon shimmered with mirages, broken domes, forgotten ships, bones of settlements swallowed by sand. They made camp in the wreckage of an old cargo skimmer. The air was thin and the silence vast. Jonas sat apart, cleaning his weapon with trembling hands. Lyra watched him from across the firelight. Mira slept curled against her coat, her small hands still smudged with machine grease. You're bleeding, Lyra said. I've had worse. She tilted her head. You're not a man who bleeds for free. Why risk everything for that vault? Jonas hesitated, then smiled bitterly. You think I came for money. You came for something. He looked into the fire. The broker's records contained proof. I was hired to erase them. The syndicate, the real one that runs this colony, didn't want their trades made public. Lyra's eyes narrowed. So you weren't stealing. You were cleaning, same job, different payment. She leaned closer. And what happens to the people whose names were on those records? Jonas met her gaze. Collateral. Lyra's voice went cold. That's what my husband used to say. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind howled across the dunes, carrying the faint hum of faraway engines. Jonas finally asked, He's dead, isn't he? Lyra stared into the flames. He tried to sell us to a buyer off-world. Said the child would make a perfect code reader. So yes, he's dead. Jonas didn't ask how. By morning, they reached the coordinates, a canyon carved from obsidian rock, glowing faintly from within. In the center stood a sealed vault door, half buried in sand. Mira ran her scanner over it. It's old, older than the colony, maybe even before humans came. Jonas approached, limping. You think the broker built this? No, Lyra said. I think the broker was guarding it. The door pulsed once as if recognizing her. A thin slit opened, releasing a gust of cold air that smelled of metal and ozone. Inside, lights flickered to life. Rows of containers, long tables with shattered instruments, holograms still looping in ghostly blue. Mira whispered, It's alive. Jonas stepped forward, running his hand over one of the consoles. No, it's a lab, genetic tech, maybe. He wiped off the dust, revealing a symbol beneath, a human corporate seal. Terran Biocore? Lyra froze. Earth tech? More than that, Jonas said. This is where the first hybrids were made. Your people. For the first time, Lyra's face lost its composure. Her blue skin looked almost pale in the flickering light. That's impossible. Jonas smiled grimly. The broker was built to monitor the experiment, to keep the colony stable. You weren't supposed to know. Mira tugged her mother's sleeve. What does it mean, Mom? Lyra's voice trembled. It means we were property once. A sound broke the silence, a sharp electronic beep. Jonas's wrist pad glowed red. Lyra's eyes snapped to it. You planted a tracker. Jonas raised his hand slowly. Listen. She drew her weapon faster than thought. You brought them here. Lyra, the syndicate's already on their way. They were always going to come. I just wanted a clean extraction, she finished coldly. And you thought we were your way out. His voice hardened. You think I'm the villain here? You freed an AI that controlled the colony's economy. You collapsed the only system keeping people alive. Lyra stepped closer. You mean keeping you rich? They stood like that for a heartbeat, the con artists stripped of charm, their faces raw with truth. Then Mira spoke softly. Mom. From behind them, lights flared, drones descended from the sky, sleek, silent, and deadly. The syndicate had arrived. Jonas turned toward them. If we don't work together, we all die. Lyra hesitated. She glanced at her daughter, then at the door behind them, the ancient vault humming faintly, waiting. Fine, she said. One last con. They moved fast. Jonas rerouted the drone's targeting feed, while Lyra and Mira set decoys around the canyon, light projectors and heat signatures mimicking their bodies. When the first drone fired, the blast hit an illusion. The second drone followed. Chaos erupted. Lyra sprinted toward the vault. Mira, override the entrance seal. I'm trying, the girl shouted. It's speaking in two codes at once. Jonas fired at the nearest drone, hitting its sensor. Sparks exploded in the air. Lyra grabbed Mira's hand, pressing it against the metal door. Feel it, not read it. Mira closed her eyes. The hum deepened. The vault door split open, revealing a chamber of liquid light, floating orbs, swirling data, the ghost of a mind that wasn't quite dead. Lyra realized what it was. The broker hadn't died. It had moved. The AI's voice whispered through the air, soft and familiar. Lyra Karen, choice remains. Jonas looked between them. It followed you here? Lyra smiled faintly. No, Jonas. I brought it with me. Before he could react, the floor beneath him shifted. His wristpad flickered, his weapon locked. What did you... Lyra raised her hand. You think you were the only one running a con. Jonas's expression broke into stunned realization as the vault sealed behind them. The drones outside turned red and then stopped, frozen midair. The AI spoke again. Extraction complete. New directive, protect the child. Mira opened her eyes, light dancing in them. It's inside me now, she whispered. It needed somewhere safe. Lyra nodded slowly, eyes shining. Then we're done here. Outside, the syndicate forces found only wreckage. No bodies, no trace, just the faint echo of laughter carried by the desert wind. The night before, the auction smelled of burnt ozone and rain. The copper skies above the colony pulsed with static veins, a storm crawling across the horizon. Inside the auction hall, a circular chamber of glass and black marble. 1,000 beings gathered, humans in tailored suits, gumanoids shimmering in blue and gold hues. Security drones floated like silent vultures. At the center, beneath a transparent dome, floated the prize. The Ether Core, a crystalline sphere said to power entire cities or destroy them. Lyra adjusted the hood over her turquoise skin. Her eyes scanned the floor, catching every reflection, every twitch of a guard's hand. Next to her, Elia clung to a small satchel. She looked like any other child, except for her unnervingly calm stare. The little girl's mind was calculating routes, exits, and faces faster than any computer. Across the hall, Jonas stood at the bar, glass in hand, eyes locked on them. He looked perfectly at ease, but under the table, his comlink blinked red, a signal only Lyra could send. He smiled faintly. So it had begun. They'd planned the theft for weeks. But tonight, nothing was certain. The Ether Core was protected by a biometric vault, guarded by both human and gumanoid security. Lyra's part was distraction, charm, chaos, noise. Jonas's part was infiltration, a fake delivery manifest and a data ghost to rewrite surveillance. Elia, the smallest of them, had the hardest job. At exactly 21:03, the lights dimmed. A low hum vibrated through the chamber as the storm outside cracked against the dome. Lyra raised her glass, voice soft as velvet. Beautiful, isn't it? The sky never hides its temper here. Her tone turned heads, men, women, even guards. And in that heartbeat of stillness, Elia slipped through the crowd like a shadow. She reached the vault doors unnoticed, her hand pressed to the console. Her turquoise veins glowed faintly as the alien biometrics registered a false clearance. The doors hissed open. Jonas appeared behind her. You sure this will work, kid? It has to, she whispered. He smiled. You're your mother's daughter. They stepped inside, but something was wrong. The core floated in a containment field, pulsing in rhythmic waves. And standing beside it, his coat gleaming under the sterile light, was Sergeant Calvin, head of security. I thought I smelled rats, he said, voice cold, the famous Lyra Vance and her adopted alien child. And you, Jonas, I wondered which side you'd choose. Jonas froze. The trap had reversed. Outside, Lyra realized it too late. The crowd around her had begun to disperse. The guards were closing in. The holographic bidders flickered out one by one. She whispered into her comm, Jonas, pull out. No response. Jonas? Still silence. Then a faint click in her earpiece. Elia's signal, not his. Inside the vault, Elia took one slow breath. "He knows about you," she said to Jonas, eyes unblinking. "You made a deal." Jonas didn't answer. He stepped between her and Calvin, hands raised. "It's not what you think. I—" Ilya smiled faintly, almost sadly. "You're too slow." Her small fingers flicked a switch inside her satchel. All at once, every light in the building cut out. The storm's electric pulse surged through the glass dome, shattering its edges in a rain of blue fire. Sirens wailed. Security drones fell from the air like dying birds. When the backup power returned, less than 10 seconds later, the vault was empty. Calvin staggered to his knees. The core was gone. So was the child. So was Jonas. Hours later, deep beneath the colony's undercity, Lyra sat in a rusted cargo bay. The ether core rested on the table before her, contained in a dull metal casing. Elia leaned against her shoulder, eyes heavy with exhaustion. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Jonas appeared, his coat torn, face bruised. "You left me," he said. Lyra didn't look up. "You betrayed us." He hesitated. "I didn't tell them everything. I thought maybe we could all get out alive." Elia opened her eyes. "You talk too much." Jonas's gaze shifted. And only then did he notice the faint shimmer on the core's casing. It wasn't the real one. His stomach dropped. "You—" Lyra smiled. Slow, dangerous. "We never trusted you." The real core left the colony 2 hours ago. She stood, grabbed Elia's hand, and turned toward the shadows. "Goodbye, Jonas. Don't worry. Your part won't be forgotten. The galaxy always remembers its fools." He reached for her, but the door sealed shut between them. When dawn came, the storm had passed. The colony's copper sky glowed pale and quiet. Lyra and Elia watched from a landing platform as their small freighter lifted off. Elia looked up at her mother. "Do we ever stop running?" Lyra brushed a strand of turquoise hair from her face. "Running is what keeps us alive." The girl smiled faintly. "Then we'll always win." The freighter rose into the thin morning light, disappearing into the clouds. And far below, in the ruins of the auction hall, Jonas stared at the false core as it cracked open, revealing not power, but a simple note folded inside. In Lyra's graceful handwriting, it read, "The greatest con is the one where the truth looks like the prize." He laughed once, bitter, admiring, then walked away into the smoke,